Welcome back, everybody, to episode 2 of the Lag and Lore podcast, right here on the Rykeen channel. I am your host, Rykeen, and joining me as always are the two most sleep-deprived gamers on the entire Eastern Seaboard, Josh and Kevin. Guys, Season 1 of World of Warcraft, Midnight has officially kicked off. We have stepped foot into the Voidspire, we have subjected ourselves to the absolute meat grinder that is the new Mythic Plus pool, and we have a monumental amount of stuff to talk about today. First things first, how are we holding up physically? Because it is already getting ridiculously hot down here in Tampa, and with my PC running World of Warcraft 24/7, my office has basically become a sauna.
I am holding up by a very, very thin thread, Rykeen. Being a healer this week has aged me at least 5 years. I think my hair is genuinely starting to grey from running Pit of Saron on Fortified. I haven't seen the sun in 3 days, and my diet currently consists entirely of lukewarm coffee and whatever I can microwave between dungeon queues.
You are not kidding. I feel like my soul left my body sometime around 3 a.m. on Wednesday. But honestly, despite the physical pain and the lack of sleep, this has been one of the most exciting season launches we have had in years. The Plated Nightowls guild was buzzing, the Discord voice channels were absolutely packed to the brim, and the servers actually held up perfectly. That is a miracle in itself when you think about past expansion launches.
The server stability was incredibly impressive. I didn't get disconnected once on launch night. Although, I will say, my Aero mesh router decided to flash red and drop my internet completely right in the middle of a +7 Windrunner Spire the other day. I was mid-rotation, everything froze, and I could just hear you guys in Discord yelling my name while I scrambled to restart the router.
Oh, we were definitely yelling. You were standing directly in a frontal cleave from Commander Kroluk. It was a tragedy.
Hey, we still timed the key. Barely. But let's dive right into the main event, the Voidspire. The Plated Nightowls went in on normal difficulty on Tuesday night just to scout the mechanics, and then we immediately started our heroic progression. Visually, this raid is stunning. Running this on my Ryzen 5 7600X and the RX 9060 XT with all the settings cranked to maximum at 4K, it is just breathtaking. Xalatatha's Stronghold is everything I wanted from a Void-themed raid. It doesn't just feel like dark purple corridors. It has this really unsettling, almost geometric, cosmic horror vibe to it.
The art team absolutely nailed the atmosphere. The way the environment actively shifts and distorts around you during the fights is wild. But we need to talk about the first boss, because we predicted this exact scenario last week. The Gridmaster encounter with the tic-tac-toe mechanic is pure comedy gold, but it is also a pug destroyer.
It really is. Trying to get 30 people to coordinate blocking a boss from getting 3 narrow on a glowing floor grid, while simultaneously dodging these massive sweeping void lasers, is hilarious. Leela actually walked into my room at one point to ask me a question, and I was just screaming, "Get off the center square. Block the diagonal." She slowly backed out and closed the door.
I don't blame her. It is a fantastic filter boss, though. If your raid cannot communicate basic spatial directions, you are just going to wipe endlessly. There is no way to just brute force the DPS and ignore the mechanic. But once you get the rhythm down, it's a really fun, almost choreographed dance. For me, the standout fight so far has to be the third boss, Nexus-Prince Locus.
Oh man, Locus is a masterpiece of encounter design. The spatial awareness required for that fight is off the charts. For the listeners who haven't reached him yet, he essentially splits the arena into overlapping dimensions. You have to actively use these localized portal mechanics to dodge his massive, room-clearing area of effect spells. If your timing is off by a fraction of a second, or if you take the blue portal instead of the purple one, you are completely vaporized. There is no saving you.
As a healer, that fight is my absolute nightmare. Because inevitably, a DPS player is going to panic, take the wrong portal, end up isolated in the shadow dimension taking ticking damage, and start yelling for heals when they are out of line of sight. we definitely had a few pulls where half the raid ended up getting dumped right off the edge of the platform because the portal trajectory shifted at the last second.
It's punishing, but it feels fair. When you die on Locus, you know exactly what you did wrong. Overall, the raid feels incredibly well-tuned for the first week. The class balance is mostly holding up, though Devourer Demon Hunters are doing exactly what we thought they would do, absolutely dominating the damage meters. We have 2 in our roster right now, and their burst windows during Void Metamorphosis are essentially carrying us through the heavy DPS checks.
It's great for the raid environment, but it transitions us perfectly into our Mythic Plus experience. Because while the raid feels balanced and methodical, the Mythic Plus dungeon pool right now is a completely different story. It is the Wild West out there.
Let's just rip the band-aid off. Pit of Saron. We joked about it last week. We preemptively cried about it, but the reality is somehow so much worse than we imagined. Josh, you were tanking our keys all week. Walk the listeners through the sheer agony of this dungeon on Fortified and Tyrannical.
It is a nightmare, Rykeen. Scourgelord Tyrannus is overtuned to an absurd degree. Blizzard decided to keep his unholy power buff from the original Wrath of the Lich King version, but they scaled it to modern Mythic Plus standards. When he enrages, his melee swings hit like a freight train. If I do not have every single defensive cooldown active, shield wall, last stand, trinkets, everything, I am instantly deleted. You basically have to taunt, pop a movement speed ability, and run for your life around the arena while the DPS prays they can burn him down before he catches you.
And from the healer's perspective, I am just spamming every emergency heal in my spellbook, burning through my mana pool in the first 40 seconds of the fight, all while trying to dodge the falling ice boulders that essentially one-shot you on a +8 or higher. And it's not just Pit of Saron causing problems. The new dungeon, Windrunner Spire, has the tightest timer I think I have ever seen in a Season 1 dungeon.
Windrunner Spire is brutal. The trash packs leading up to Commander Kroluk require so many interrupts. If you miss a single cast of Banshee's Wail, the entire group gets feared into the next pack, and it's an instant wipe. And because the timer is so strict, if you wipe even once on that wing, the key is basically dead. You might as well just reset and try again.
It is definitely a punishing first week. But you know what? That is the beauty of the Keystone system. We are undergeared right now. As we get more pieces from the raid, as we fill out our vault slots, and as we finally start crafting our embellished spark gear, it will get easier. We just have to adapt our routes.
Exactly. The progression feels earned. Now, we promised last week that we would talk about the current state of player versus player. Kevin, I know you have been spending a ton of your downtime queuing up for the new Slayer's Rise battleground. How is the 40v40 meta shaking out so far?
Slayer's Rise is genuinely the most fun I have had in large-scale PvP since the original Alterac Valley days. The map design is stellar. The push and pull mechanics down the main path of predation lane feel incredibly engaging, but it's not just a mindless zergfest in the middle. You actually have to break off small strike teams to control the side nodes to spawn the siege weapons. If you ignore the side objectives, the enemy team will just roll over your gates with void-infused battering rams.
That sounds amazing. But let me guess. The class balance is completely tilted, right?
Completely broken.
Let me say it together with you. Devourer Demon Hunters.
Yes. Devourer Demon Hunters are completely out of control in PvP right now. Their baseline mobility is already high, but when you combine it with their new mid-range void spells, it creates a class that has zero weaknesses. They can kite melee classes like warriors and paladins forever, and they have enough interrupts and gap closers to completely lock down casters. They have this soul harvesting mechanic that heals them for a percentage of the damage they deal in void metamorphosis.
So they essentially become unkillable raid bosses for 15 seconds.
Exactly. If you step into solo shuffle arenas right now, every single match has at least one Devourer, and they are dictating the entire pace of the game. You are forced to hold all of your crowd control specifically for their burst window. Blizzard is going to have to hit them with a hotfix soon, or Season 1 PvP is just going to be a Demon Hunter waiting room.
I completely agree. The class balance in PvP definitely needs a quick tuning pass. But taking a step back from the granular class balance, I want to pivot to the larger discussion we teased for this episode. With Midnight having such a massive, successful launch, it really got me thinking about World of Warcraft's place in the broader gaming industry right now. We are looking at a game that is running on an engine that is 20 years old, yet WoW still completely dominates the MMO market and commands a massive chunk of the gaming zeitgeist. How does this game hold up as a modern, AAA title compared to the rest of the industry?
It is a really fascinating conversation, especially when you look at the landscape of modern gaming. Right now, everything is moving toward these massive live service models. You have games launching with $70 price tags, promising 10 years of content, and then they completely drop the ball. Look at the new wave of extraction shooters, or games like Destiny 2. They struggle constantly with content droughts. They release a season, players burn through the meaningful content in 2 weeks, and then the game is a ghost town for 3 months until the next battle pass drops.
I play a lot of Escape from Tarkov, and it's a great example of the contrast. I love Tarkov, but you know how brutal the wipe cycles are, the desync issues, the cheater waves, and the massive optimization problems. You spend half your time fighting the game's code instead of other players. Then I boot up World of Warcraft, and despite its age, the infrastructure is a well-oiled machine.
That's the thing. Look at what Blizzard is doing with Midnight. They didn't just drop a raid, a few dungeons, and tell us to grind for 6 months. We got massive, visually stunning new zones. We got a complete overhaul of the crafting system. We got a deep, fully functional player housing system that touches every other aspect of the game. We have the open-world prey hunting mechanic, bountiful delves for solo players, and a massive 40v40 PvP map. The sheer volume of content is staggering compared to what other AAA studios are putting out.
That is the big differentiator for me. WoW obviously has the monthly subscription fee, which players and critics love to debate, but you are actually seeing the tangible return on that investment right now. The cadence of updates is unmatched in the industry. We are getting minor patches every 8 weeks, class tuning almost weekly, and major content patches on a reliable schedule. But let's talk about the technical side for a second. Josh, you play a lot of other modern AAA single-player games. Does WoW's engine feel hopelessly dated to you?
Technically speaking, under the hood? Yes, the underlying engine is ancient. It doesn't have the hyper-realistic ray tracing of a game like Cyberpunk 2077 or the incredible, dynamic physics engine of something like Helldivers 2. But WoW has something that ages much better than raw graphical fidelity, and that is a flawless, timeless art direction. The stylized, painterly look of the game allows it to transcend its graphical limitations. When you look at the glowing, bioluminescent roots of Harinder, or the swirling, terrifying skybox of the void storm above Zolaman, it looks gorgeous. It doesn't need to be photorealistic to provide a AAA visual experience.
I totally agree. And frankly, the engine's age is actually a massive benefit when it comes to accessibility. I can run this game on a 5-year-old laptop while traveling, and it still plays perfectly smoothly. Try doing that with any other modern AAA live service game. Plus, the gameplay loop is just so incredibly responsive. When I press a button in WoW, the action happens instantly. The combat fluidity, the spell queuing system, it is something that a lot of modern games, even big-budget action RPGs, still struggle to replicate.
You hit the nail on the head, Kevin. That combat responsiveness is the secret sauce that has kept this game alive for 2 decades. The fact that they can take that core combat, wrap it in a deeply engaging endgame loop with Mythic Plus and raids, and now successfully integrate a casual, social feature like player housing proves that they understand their diverse player base better than anyone else. Midnight really feels like Blizzard looking at the rest of the live service industry, planting a flag in the ground, and saying, "This is how you do it."
It really does. They have successfully modernized the game without losing its identity. The inclusion of native gamepad support, integrating add-ons like console port directly into the UI, and adding story mode for raids shows they are actively trying to bring in new players who might be intimidated by the traditional PC MMO setup. I honestly think WoW is in the best state it has been in since the Legion expansion. The developers are listening, the content is flowing, and the community is energized.
I couldn't agree more. It is a fantastic time to be a WoW player, and an incredible time to be making content for it. Honestly, editing these podcast episodes in CapCut is going to take a while with how much we have to talk about. But we are going to have to wrap it up there for today's episode, boys. The grind never stops, and we have to get back in there and finish our heroic Voidspire progression this weekend. We still have Nexus-Prince Locus to take down.
And maybe we can try to time a level 10 Pit of Saron before the weekly reset. Come on, for the glory.
I am going to respectfully decline that invitation, Kevin. My tanking ego simply cannot take another hit this week. I am going back to my player housing to arrange my bookshelves and fish with the Abyss anglers.
We will see about that. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this extended deep dive. If you are enjoying the Lag and Lore podcast, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe right here on the Rykeen channel, and leave a comment down below letting us know what you think about WoW's place in the modern gaming landscape. We are still actively recruiting for the Plated Nightowls Guild, so if you are looking for a home for Season 1, check the description for the Discord link. Next week, for Episode 3, we are going to be talking about the opening of the Mythic raid tier, diving deep into the hidden lore secrets players are finding in the player housing decor, and maybe, just maybe, celebrating our first heroic AOTC kill.
Fingers crossed we don't wipe on the Gridmaster again.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We will catch you in the next one.